I would wake up every morning with my chest tight, not knowing how this was going to affect my daughter in the long run. She was so angry with me in the beginning because I was the one that asked her dad to leave. She would ask questions, why don't you love him anymore? And why did you ask him to leave? There were days that I didn't know what to say. And I would just sit with her and I would hold her and I would tell her I love her and we're going to be okay. Not really believing that myself at the time.
Welcome to The Details with Allison Kahler, a space for real divorce stories and grounded conversations with experts, helping you find clarity and courage as you step into a future that may look different than you expected and better than you thought possible. My guests today, plural, are the co-founders of My Two Homes, a community based in Port Washington, New York, dedicated to supporting families navigating divorce and co-parenting. Bella, Sue, and Julia share their individual divorce experiences and how the community they've created has helped them not only feel less alone, but also helped their kids thrive through this transition. Let's get into my conversation with Bella, Sue, and Julia. Welcome to The Details, Bella, Sue, and Julia.
Hi.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
So thrilled to have you. And Bella, Sue, and Julia are the three co-founders of My Two Homes. So before we get into what My Two Homes is, this is my first podcast with three people, or my first podcast with more than one person. So it feels like a party over here at The Details tonight. So to kick us off, Bella, will you tell us a little bit about My Two Homes, what it is, and a little bit of the origin story?
Sure. My Two Homes is a support group for children and parents going through divorce or separation. Sue and I created this 3 years ago, and it really started with my daughter Violet was in class with Sue's son in kindergarten. And I was just starting my process, and she came home one day and said that her and John were planning a play date, and he said, I'm going to be with my dad. So she came home and was like, he also has two homes. And with that, I really didn't know anyone else. So I called Sue and I invited them over for a play date. And, the kids played, and we really just talked about our situation, what we were going through, and the kids. And it was a great play date. My daughter felt very happy. And then Sue.
Wait, so did you, before Sue dives in, did you guys know each other before this, or did you meet through this play date? Okay, so you had no contact. Okay.
No contact at all. I had no idea who she was. Actually, I did go to her son's birthday party without knowing what was going on.
Oh my gosh.
They were in the same kindergarten class.
Yes.
So yes, she was there. We've seen each other, but had never had an actual conversation about our lives or anything. So
we often talk about it now. Had I known at that birthday party, I would have given you a hug.
We actually sometimes say that our kids are the real founders since they were the ones who initially made the connection. So
I love that. So Sue, tell us a little bit about that play date from your perspective and the connection that you and Bella had that first time.
Well, we sat at Bella's kitchen table and just shared our stories about what we were going through. And it was just very easy to connect and let go and be emotional, I think, for me. Yeah. And I think for Bella too. So, I think we were able to make that connection about what we were going through. And I was very grateful to finally talk to somebody else who was going through it. So from there, the summer happened, and then we were at the beginning of the school year picnic at the elementary school, and we were talking a little bit more about how things were going and what was going on with the kids and how they were feeling. And I had shared with Bella that when my parents got divorced, when I was in middle school, they had a group called the Banana Splits. I don't know if they have, I know it's an East Coast thing. So, after COVID, that went away. And I was saying how great it would be if our kids had something similar to that. And Bella said, why don't we start it? And I said, that sounds like a great idea. I have to go now, and ran off the So the idea was a very quick situation. And, Bella followed up and texted me and said, "Hey, would you like to meet and talk about what we discussed on the playground?" And I said, "That would be great." And we went to a local cafe and kind of shared our idea. And then we decided that we really wanted to do this. And our first official meeting was at Bella's kitchen table, where the original stories and experiences got shared. And we came up with the idea and the name to start My Two Homes. And so our first group session was in November of 2023. And Julia and her son were at the first session. So Julia and her son had been there since the initial jump off or kickoff of it all. And a little while into it, maybe a year into it, somebody might be able to correct my date, we decided that Julia should become one of the founders as well. I mean, she had been there since the beginning, and it really just felt natural that she was already kind of a part of it. My background is in education. I'm a general and special education teacher, so I bring the understanding of how children grow and learn to the group. Bella is a life coach and also works in education, so she has a great mindset on personal growth and working with children as well. And Julia has a sales and marketing background, so it really kind of brings it all together and complements it. Since all of us have different backgrounds, it really just all works though. So
That's amazing. And I want to hear a little bit from each of you about sort of what it was like before you all started My Two Homes, and a little bit of what this has given you as support for yourself and for your kids. But Julia, maybe tell us a little bit what it was like to come into this dynamic duo from the start and meeting Bella and Sue for the first time.
It was like a breath of fresh air. I think, for years, the decision to leave my marriage had weighed so heavily on me. And, we have a child together. I wanted more children. And there was always this hope and expectation and emotion that things would change. And when I realized they weren't going to, I knew that I needed to move forward. I really didn't look back. And of course, there was a lot of sadness and uncertainty with that, but I really felt this enormous sense of relief. And I felt like I was finally living my truth and not kind of living a lie just to kind of keep up appearances or fit in with social norms. But it was really scary. Like, I didn't know what that road looked like ahead and what my life was going to look like. And especially when you move to the suburbs, it's kind of like every family looks pretty similar. So it was
Yeah.
such a relief to find families that looked like mine or what mine was about to look like. And, I think also I have an amazing support system of family and friends, and they were incredible throughout the process. But truly, no one understands unless they've been through it. And when I
Yeah.
met them, everything I had experienced and so many of the emotions that I felt were validated. And I just was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I found you guys. Like, I felt like the universe put us together. And, I also think that out of something really hard, this group formed and it kind of took us on a different path and a different journey. So yeah, I mean, I think we just had this immediate sense of connection and understanding, and again, felt so validated. And I think the other thing is they were already kind of on the other side of creating their two homes, and their significant others had moved out. I was still in the thick of my divorce, and we were living under the same roof, which was extremely challenging and very hard to navigate. So they were like my rocks through that time in my life, and helped me so much about preparing for what was ahead and how I was going to prepare my son for the transition. So having their guidance and their perspective and kind of reassurance through it all was game changing for me.
Yeah. I remember when I was going through my own divorce experience, it just felt so lonely. And that was something I think, Sue, you said in our first meeting that initially you felt like you were the only person on Long Island that was going through divorce or something like that. But can you speak to that loneliness feeling as well?
yes, I mean, when I first was separated, my kids were very little. My daughter was 1, my son was 4, and I was pretty blindsided by it. And it just felt that I was just in survival mode. And I was the only person around me going through it. Like Julia had said, and I'm sure Bella too, we all had our support networks of family and friends, but nobody that had gone through this particular experience. So I didn't really know where to go or what to do. And all I knew is I had to be there for my kids. And so it was a very lonely feeling because I didn't know anybody else who had gone through an experience like this. So,
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like the circumstances of your individual experiences, Sue and Julia, might have been a little bit different, but there's still this sense of
mhm.
like shared connection of having to go through a divorce, especially as moms with kids too. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it just, you felt, less alone by knowing even one person in your community that has a shared experience.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I always
Yeah.
like to say it's the club that you never want to be a part of, the divorce club. But once you're a part of it, it's like the fastest route to friendship. It's like an
Yeah.
automatic, just like boom, right? So
Yeah.
Bella, tell us a little bit about kind of your experience and what were some of the emotions before you showed up with that play date with Sue. What was it like for you to navigate that?
Well, right before I met Sue, I was really just in the beginning, not even divorce, but just separation. So it
Hmm.
was like I had asked, it was a decision that I made to leave after being together for 20 years. And so I was really just in the beginning of it. And for me, yeah, loneliness. I mean, I would wake up every morning with my chest tight, just not knowing what the next day was going to be like, not knowing how this was going to affect my daughter in the long run. I mean, for me, she was so angry with me in the beginning
Mm,
because she did know that I was the one that asked her dad to leave.
mm,
So she just, she would ask questions. Why don't you love him anymore? And why did you ask him to leave? And why can't he come back? And I mean, that there were days that I didn't know what to say. And I would just sit with her and I would hold her and I would tell her I love her and we're going to be okay. Not really believing that myself. And I would go to bed crying, full of anxiety at night. I I just had a lot of emotions. It was very roller coaster for me. I did not want to leave my marriage. And I very much, instead of really seeing the unhealthiness in my relationship, for a couple years, I decided to try harder
mm,
and do more and sacrifice more and love more. And I really convinced myself that, yep, that's going to fix it. We're going to be just fine. It didn't work out that way because here I am. And it was it was just a really painful time. I would say the most painful time for me was realizing in order for the three of us to be happy, we would have to go our separate ways.
yeah.
And that was just undescribable pain.
Mm,
And this was all before I found my two homes.
mm,
Once I found my two homes, yeah, it was just that group that wraps you in a hug when you
mm,
need it. I always look at it as that no matter what you're going through, that text thread is always there.
Mhm.
And whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, you just put something in there, and it could be an hour, it could be two, but these women are
mm,
showing up for you and they're answering you or they're coming over, whatever it is, they're there and you're not alone.
mm.
Mhm.
And that is just, it's an amazing feeling
Mhm.
to have that.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, some of the things that you shared, Bella, about your story, I know that so many of our listeners can resonate with the nobody wants the marriage to, or at least I will say I have not met a person yet who wanted their marriage to end in divorce. And people fight really, really hard. And it's a really hard decision. And so
Yeah.
I know that what you just shared is going to resonate with so many listeners. And I'm so glad you found this group. I'm curious, Sue and then Julia, maybe what was it like for you coming into finding my two homes and what did that help you in navigating the emotions of divorce?
Yeah, I wish I had it when we first got separated. I think it would have been I don't know about an easier road, but it would have Felt more supported, that's for sure. You know, in the beginning of it all, even though I knew our marriage was not in a good place, I never thought it would end the way it did. I thought our foundation was stronger. So when it fell apart, I really lost my footing and I felt embarrassed and very angry. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized I was more angry with myself. There were a lot of times where I put everything else before myself, and I really lost who I was. I lost my confidence. I lost the ability to take care of myself. I didn't even know who I was anymore. So finding this group helped me get my footing again, helped me bring myself back to me and become a stronger, more confident, more self-aware person. And to be honest, I think in a lot of ways it helped me trust again because I could be so unbelievably vulnerable with this group of women. And they have always been there for me no matter what. So that sense of belonging and that sense of security was something that I definitely needed post divorce and post separation because it was a hard path. But at the end, I do know that while divorce was very hard, it was what was best for me and our family. I am more secure, more confident, and genuinely happier than I have ever been. It took time and it took work and it took a lot of long conversations with these two women and a lot of the other women in my two homes. And it didn't happen overnight, but I'm here and we're here together. And my two homes played a big part in that. They are here now, and in the early days, it would have been great to have this kind of support network. So, yeah,
Yeah. What a beautiful friendship.
yeah.
Julia, I want to get your take, and then I also want to talk about beyond the support that you've created for one another, kind of what it's like being moms going through this experience and start to get into what does my two homes offer for children as well through this. But yeah, Julia, can you share a little bit about what was your experience like after coming into my two homes?
I think, it started as a friendship and this shared experience, but I feel like the bond that we created just happened so quickly and the connection was so effortless. Like it's so easy to be together.
Mm,
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And our kids really feel that. And I think that just naturally transitioned to our children because they see us together and how we work together and we make each other laugh and we support one another. So in turn, like our children feel that bond and they've created it too. So, I have one son, he's an only child, and I felt like this was so important for him to have a community and a connection of other kids, not having a sibling that are going through, the
yeah.
same experience. So I also think like this was the hardest chapter of all of our lives, and we kind of came out on the other side, and it ultimately brought us together. And I think
Yeah.
we pause and we recognize that a lot, and we'll just text each other and be like extra grateful today
Mm,
because we're reminded that if we hadn't gone through what we did, we wouldn't have this beautiful community. And I think we express gratitude for that all the time, which is wonderful. And I think what makes my two homes also so authentic is it's rooted in real life experience. And we're not speaking from theory. We've all lived it. We've all been through it. We've experienced the uncertainty and the grief of our marriage and the rebuilding of our lives. And we've kind of built what we love to call our little mommune.
I love that.
It's very special. Like, I feel like we have become each other's co-parents in a way. Like, obviously, we have our co-parents,
Yeah.
but we've become each other's co-parents and we help with pickup and drop off and we help support each other's children and we show up at each other's doors without hesitation if somebody's having a bad day and we're celebrating big milestones together and we're just kind of navigating life together as a team, and that has been the best experience that I could have never saw coming out of my divorce.
Yeah. And Julia, you mentioned your son's an only son, and so he's found community with the kids as well. And I know Sue, you're a teacher, and Bella, you have some education background as well. So, what does the programming look like for the kids that are part of My Two Homes?
Our goal is to create opportunities for children to connect and realize that they're not alone and through these shared experiences. So we offer biweekly classes at a local venue in town called Oh My Goodness Kids. And it's a play space, and we partner with them where we create different themed activities for each class. And it's not necessarily about divorce or having two homes, it's about navigating disappointment or friendship, or we'll do something timely of the time of the year, like we just did a Father's Day activity for the kids so they can bring something to their dad and create a positive experience, like we're doing something for their father. So, and ultimately we just want kids to feel comfortable and be themselves.
That's awesome. Bella, Sue, anything you want to add on top of what the experience is like for your kids to participate?
For my daughter, I just had a check-in. I often have check-ins with her to see how she's doing, and I said to her, like, how are you doing with the divorce, with, how many times a week with each parent, just in general. And she said, I'm really doing great, Mom. And she said, and plus, if this didn't happen, if you weren't divorced, then My Two Homes wouldn't have happened. And she said, and I love My Two Homes and I love the kids. And
I just got goosebumps.
and she often says, that we are the founders and you're just holding on to it for when we're older. Which
I
we're like,
love
yes.
that. I love that.
So yeah, for her, I mean, she was 4 years old when we started this, and I couldn't have I couldn't have pictured that she would have this. The bond that these kids have now when they see each other. I mean, we go on trips together. I mean, they're family. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. We did a class with them last year where we asked what do they want more of from My Two Homes, like their ideas. And they wanted more trips.
Ah,
And sure enough, Legoland and skiing, and we delivered. And they love it.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I think the most beautiful thing about the trips is they're watching all of us work together because we're in the kitchen, we're cooking, we're cleaning up, and then I feel like we're just setting such a good example for them. And also it just feels really light and happy, and we obviously have rules, but I think that they just really genuinely look forward to being together, and it's kind of like a novelty, like all going away together, and they've really bonded through those experiences.
I would love to add something to that. Julia, we went skiing and I drove your car to go to the mountain, and it was really snowing. I mean, right? We were nervous. I was driving really slow, and you just don't know that they're paying attention. And at home, when got home from the trip, my daughter said to me, Julia let you drive her car. I said, yeah. She goes, she must really trust you. They really are seeing these
Yeah.
experiences of us together, the friendships, just little things that you wouldn't think children
Yeah.
are noticing, but they are. They're learning all of this through us, and
Yeah.
it's really amazing.
And they've gotten very comfortable with each other. I know for my son, it's very important for him. He's very much able to be himself and he feels confident and happy around this group. And he has said about those trips that we take, Mom, I know that people have fun when they go away with their friends, but nobody has more fun than My Two Homes. So,
So
I mean,
sweet.
it really is. And I agree. He sees us comfortable with each other and trusting each other, like you said. And that's how he feels with the kids. It's just a very positive experience all around.
Yeah. I mean, there's the saying, right? Like it takes a village. And I think that's the way, as I understand it, like families used to be raised, right? It was, not us moving away from parents, grandparents, whatever. Like you had this supportive community around you. And I think just the way that today's society is organized, it's a lot of times we move away from home, we live in new communities based on work, et cetera. And when you split from your partner and that nuclear family splits apart, a lot of people feel really lost and alone. And this sense of community that you've all built is just really remarkable and the impact it's having on kids. I'm curious to get your take. I mean, what you just described sounds like it's having such a positive impact on these kids. Some people say, like divorce is bad for kids, right? But I think what you're explaining is just like the flip side of that. So I'm just kind of curious to get your take on that. Or I'm sure as moms, you wrestled with this concept quite a bit, but just what's your view on that of like divorce and the impact on kids now that you're through it?
I really wrestled with this.
Yeah.
And going through, and it's been 4 years for me. So going through it right now, I don't believe divorce is bad for kids. I'm going to speak on my experience. It's healthier. My daughter now gets to see two parents that are much happier, two parents that treat each other much more kindly. I think that sometimes divorce works out in our favor, in the child's favor. And so I don't believe that. I think that each situation is different and each person is different, each family. But for us, it's been for the best. It really has. Yeah. She gets to see that. She gets to see a happy mom, a
Yeah.
happy dad. And that's really important.
Yeah. Your kids sound wonderful. I kind of want to have your kids on the podcast.
Ooh, I would love that.
I would love to hear from each of you. And Sue, maybe I'll start with you and then I'll come around to each of you. But if you think back to where you were, months or years ago when you were starting this process, and you think about another woman, another mom who might be in that, should we stay married? Should we get divorced and wrestling with this? What would you want to say to other women who are maybe entering that phase that you all went through? I'd love to hear from each of you.
Yeah, certainly. I think that one of the most important things that I have learned with the help of these two lovely women and a lot of other women in the group is to trust yourself. Trust your intuition, trust your gut. It's a muscle that you have to work and use and practice with to get better at, but trust yourself. You know your situation better than anyone, and that inner voice really matters. And I think that a good message would be, I never could have imagined a support system like this and the relationships that came out of them that helped me through the hardest chapter in my life. Put it out there, talk to people, find your people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Julia, what about you? What would you want to say to other women that might be navigating this?
I would say don't be afraid just because you feel like you'll be judged or there's shame around it. I feel like in my community, I was celebrated. People were like, wow, good for you. Like, that's really brave. That takes a lot of courage. And that once I was comfortable enough to talk about it and say the words out loud, and that was so encouraging because it's not the norm to just decide, to walk away. But I just knew that there was more for me and this wasn't my path. And I wanted to live a happier and healthier life for myself and my son. So I took the harder path. It was the harder choice and the harder decision. But I ultimately knew once I got on the other side, I would experience what I'm experiencing now.
What a beautiful message. Bella, I'd love to come to you as well. What do you want to share with other moms out there?
I would say that there's to always remember there's light on the other side. I felt that I was in a really dark place. And I remember thinking, will I ever be happy again? So I'm here to say that, yes, you will. Of course, it's painful, but just don't judge yourself. Ask for help. Some days you're going to feel broken. Some days you're going to feel really, really strong. Take it one day at a time and get support And definitely, I am so much happier 4 years later. And even when I think back and I wake up every morning and I am grateful for the peace. And I'm just grateful for the life that my daughter and I have created. And yes, I'm smiling again, and I would say I'm much, much happier.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, if I was a mom with a kid, I would be like, sign me up. Where can we join My Two Homes? So tell our listeners a little bit about kind of where you're based, if they can get involved, how to do that. And then also maybe if they can't get involved just based on geography, like what advice would you have for them as they're looking to find this kind of community?
Well, we are based on Long Island, and you can reach out to us via our website or through social media, My Two Homes, and try and create this in your own community if you are far away from here. We would love to share with other parents and women how we did it and what we do and how it works and how it runs.
Amazing. Well, I think the impact you're having in Long Island is just tremendous from hearing you all speak, and the love that you all have for one another and that your kids have is just so apparent for this. So, Bella, Sue, Julia, thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you for the work that you're doing with My Two Homes, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. This was wonderful.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Bella, Sue, and Julia. This conversation really landed home with me the importance of community so we feel less alone as we navigate the divorce process. For more stories like these, be sure to follow The Details wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next week on The Details.